Hello.
I didn't know that there's only an hour limit on
They
these
must have changed
lives.
that. They must have changed that.
They
I've
did, because I didn't know that. So we might just have to end, because, well, some people are joining back on, but
well, I'm sad because I'm hoping that they didn't delete what the conversation that you just had. You and I just
no,
had.
it didn't give me the option to save.
Oh, really?
So I'm so nervous because it
Uh-oh.
was so great and I wanted all my listener followers to hear it. So I'm hoping I can somehow find it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, just to close out the thought, Carolyn, just to close out the thought, the reality of the world that we live in 2021 is that I feel that each one of us has a responsibility to think about more than just ourselves. All right. We have to think about the greater whole because as the dominant creatures on this planet, as the humans, it's our choices that are going to have a massive effect on whether our planet turns out to be healthy or unhealthy in the coming years. And the reason why is population growth. We have 7.7 billion people right now. It was 2 billion in 1900. It was 1 billion in 1800, and it's going to be 11 billion in 2050. Now, can our planet support 11 billion people? Can our planet support it? Absolutely, it can. But we have to make smart choices where we're not destroying our planet. And so, what I was going to say is that with bananas and avocados and oranges, it's not so much that I'm worried about the glyphosate that's on the skin that I peel off, although I do think the nutritional value is enhanced when it is organic. But it's actually that we are spraying with these chemicals. We're spraying with these chemicals, and we see that it affects soil, that it affects ecosystems in the area where the spraying is occurring. If you look downstream, because glyphosate is water soluble, so it gets into the water supply, it's hard to get out of it. And if you follow downstream from some place that's from a field that's been sprayed with glyphosate, what they've shown is there's a 40% loss of biodiversity downstream from the glyphosate. We are eroding biodiversity. We humans are the number one cause of extinctions that are taking place. And it's behaviors like this. And the problem is that to feed this many people, 7.7 billion, going to be 11 billion, like there's going to be a food industry.
Right.
We can't change that. We're not going to put these, big food companies out of business. But what we can do is we can vote with our dollars. And by voting them with our dollars, we are putting pressure on them to do it the way that we want it to be done.
Right.
Because otherwise they don't get our business.
Right. And I agree with that so much, because people say, like, can't you take on the government? Can't you do something huge and grand? And I'm like, the best thing is to vote with your dollar, because look at how our products have changed just from 5 years ago. From 5 years ago, so many more choices on the market, and you see more and more organic and more companies making them at an affordable price too. So we definitely can do our part by voting with our dollars.
And I think part of it is like get to know your farmers. That's
Yeah.
part of the story here. So get to know your farmers, like your local farmers. They may not technically be registered as organic, but if you get to know them, they'll describe to you what they're doing.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
one of the things I'm sure, Carolyn, that you've seen this, but I think most people don't realize this. There's the common conception that sweet corn is actually not genetically modified. All right. And that was true 10 years ago.
I know. I was going to say it used to be, and now it's not so as much.
Not so much because Monsanto saw an opportunity. And so they created genetically modified sweet corn that actually not only is it designed to survive glyphosate spraying, but it's also designed to create a chemical that scares, like basically like gets the bugs off of it. Right? This chemical that it produces is like disturbing, the effects that it has.
Right.
And so this is not to say that all sweet corn is bad. It's more so to say that now more than ever, you are better off knowing who you are purchasing, like for example, your sweet corn from, so that you can ask them and they can tell you.
Right. Go talk to your local farmers. They love talking to people and finding out. I mean, I know quite a few local farmers around here. They love asking questions and things, or answering questions. things like that. So thank you for touching upon organic versus glyphosate, because I tell people glyphosate's our generation's problem. Like, it became big in the late 90s, early 2000s. So it's not something my mom had to worry about when she was feeding me as a child. But if you're a parent now, that is something you need to be educated on when you feed your children. So thank you for discussing that. And I hope that other one saved. I'm going to go try to see if it did. If it doesn't, you guys, well, even if it does save, go check out his book, Fiber Fueled. It's amazing. Come check out our podcast that he was on my show. Oh, there you go. He was on my Just Ingredients podcast and answered so many great questions. And just to end this, my last question for you is, do you think if everybody in America increased their fiber, that would be a huge, and only increase their fiber, that was like the one thing they increased, that we would see a huge health surge? That's
Oh
a
my
hard
gosh.
way how I answered it. If
No.
there's, or asked you, if there's any one thing that people could change in their diets to help their health, what would it be? Would it be fiber? There we go. That's a better way to ask it.
Okay, so I'm gonna actually throw a curveball back to you here, Carolyn, because, and perhaps you can see this coming. You might already know this, but it is fiber. But really, what it is for me is, don't count grams of fiber, don't count calories, count the number of different plants in your diet. That's my number one piece of advice.
Oh, I love
So
it.
So I want you to get your fiber, but I don't want you to like go and get some crazy fiber supplement and crank out 20 grams of that a day and then be like, oh, I did it. No, 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 no. Don't count grams of fiber. Don't count calories. Count varieties of plants in your diet, no matter who you are. Like, I want to welcome you to this party, no matter who you are, no matter what your dietary preference is. I respect you and I welcome you, but add more variety of plants to your diet, period. Thank you.
Love it. And I'll close with this little piece of advice that you gave on the podcast, and that was, start where you're at. If your plate only has 10% of plants on it, don't jump to 100% plants the next day. Do a little bit each day, 20%, 30%, baby steps until you can get to whatever your goal is, 90%, 80%, 100%, whatever your own goal is. So
Exactly. Exactly.
and
That's the way to do it.
I have to thank you again for doing this with me, answering these questions, but I also have to thank you for teaching my listeners to look for their root cause, because I think that's really important in America these days. Everybody wants to slap some medicine on it. And I appreciate you being a gastroenterologist saying, hey, it might just, your constipation, it might not just be magnesium or fiber. There might be an underlying root cause to it. So thank you for also teaching that as well.
I just think it's the way that the body works, and so we need to start getting more intelligent about the way that we think about the body and approach it. It is not like just systems, and it is not just like blood work. We are complex creatures. We are whole. There's a beauty to it all. Truly, there is a beauty to it all. But we need to look at the whole person to find exactly where the problem exists so that we can address it.
Love it. Well, thank you again, and hopefully you guys will see you on our pages and on the podcast, and grab his book.
Perfect. Thank you, Carolyn. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. You too.
All right. I'll see you.